And welcome back into NFL Live. I am Tom Downey, Chris Daughtry behind the scenes for today's show as we get into all the latest around the NFL. We'll talk quarterbacks in depth on today's show, and I want to begin with the pin poll today. Right now, who is the better quarterback, Aaron Rodgers or Kirk Cousins? Let me know at the pin poll and in the comment section of today's show. AR for Aaron Rodgers, KC for Kirk Cousins. Right this second, who do you believe is the better quarterback? You need him for 1 year. 1 year under contract to go win you some games, have some success. Which QB would you rather have? Sound off for me, again, in the comments of today's show. AR or KC. And we'll check in on the early poll result. I suspect this will ebb and flow throughout today's show. Right now, it's at 52% Aaron Rodgers. Before we went live with fewer votes, Kirk Cousins was actually in the lead. Now it's 54% Aaron Rodgers, by the way. Brian says not even close. It's A-Rod. Harry Palmer says Karen Rodgers. DC Viper and Mark both say KC. So get those votes in. AR for Aaron Rodgers or KC for Kirk Cousins. Let me know in the comment section of today's video who you think is the better quarterback right this second. Now, as things relate to Rodgers, what is the percent chance you think the Steelers end up signing him? Let me know again with your predictions in the comments of today's show. Who do you think, or a percent chance with the signs pointing to Rodgers signing with Pittsburgh, but it's not done until it's done because it's Rodgers, and there's always extra involved on that one. Percent chance the Steelers are the team that ends up landing him. Matthew Carey says 3%. Interesting. I think it's above 50, but not 100, which is a wide gap, I know. But that's kind of where I think you're at, unless Rodgers wants to, try to hold out hope that, something happens to J.J. McCarthy and he gets to go to Minnesota. I think where he really wants to be at his core, but I don't think that's a likely outcome there. Percent chance Steelers sign Aaron Rodgers. Brian asking if Kirk Cousins is going to be a Hall of Famer. No. He didn't have nearly the postseason and regular NFL success. Good player, good quarterback, good starter, but not remotely Hall of Fame. 69% from Andy. Nice. Now we're talking. Matthew thinks he'll retire, by the way, which isn't out of their own possibilities. So get those percentages there. And Brian, A-Rod is a Hall of Famer. Multiple MVPs, Super Bowl. Yep, no doubter. First ballot, who's to say, but no doubt Hall of Famer there. Let's go to Kirk Cousins now. Do you think the Browns will end up trading for Kirk? Because if they're not going to go quarterback at 2, which I don't think they do, but I'm not sold on that one. If they don't go quarterback at 2, then what on earth is their quarterback plan? Kenny Pickett is not a real quarterback plan. Adding any of the available free agents is not a real quarterback plan. Kirk Cousins, short term, kind of is a real quarterback plan. He also has the no-trade clause. I don't think he's going to waive it until after the draft at minimum, or at least after the first 2 days of the draft. I think this makes sense. There are hurdles to clear that we will discuss on today's show. So get your votes in. Will the Browns trade for Kirk Cousins? Why for yes and for no? And then that also brings us to this next part, and we'll talk about this on the mock draft we have today. If Shedeur Sanders does not go 2, where does he go then? Where does he end up? Is it 3? If it's not 3, Jets take him. They just signed Justin Fields to, slow stopgap starter money, less than what Kirk Cousins got. Do the Saints take him at 9? Does he slide way down into Steelers, Rams, trade up from Browns, Saints range? That's where I am curious. Because I don't do the Raiders take him anyway at 6? Do the Raiders kind of wait on a Geno extension until post-draft just to see what happens? A QB? It's not actually the worst idea, by the way, for Vegas. At this point, there's no downside to waiting. So, who drafts him? Let me know in the comment section of today's show. Matthew thinks he falls to the Raiders. Jets for Mark Barron. Different Matthew. There's two Matthews watching, Matthew K and Matthew G. Matthew G has the Giants. Kid Boo's got him to the second round. It's not impossible A lot of times the quarterback picks are owner picks and meeting picks in the sense of, how your interviews went with teams, and if those didn't go well, not in this case, but like if it didn't go well, you have a slide. And that's why Carson Strong went undrafted. That and medical stuff, like he had bad meetings with teams. They're like, this guy's not it. From MA Football Guy, a $2 super chat, says Big Dad Bod here. Thank you, MA. It says 60% in reference to the Aaron Rodgers to the Steelers. I think that's a pretty good number. Maybe it's a little bit higher, but not 100% either. The goal on every live show is a 50% like ratio, so help us get there. We're at, a little over 20%, which is, we can do better. We can do better. So like that video if you haven't already and help us get there. All right, coming up on today's live edition of NFL Daily, we've got NFL news and rumors, quarterbacks and contract talk in particular on today's show. A mailbag, I already see Adam Dent put one in there. Use hashtag NFL or super chat like MA Football Guy did just moments ago. If you have questions, thoughts on the NFL, hashtag NFL or super chat to get them in. We can actually find your questions that way. And we'll run through a new 2025 NFL mock draft, all coming live here on NFL Daily. We'll discuss both Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, and more on today's show. But both of these guys are available, one via trade, one via free agency. If you had to pick a quarterback for just 1 year, right now, this year, who is the better QB? AR for Aaron Rodgers or KC for Kirk Cousins? More here on Rodgers. The Steelers seem at least somewhat confident that they will be able to sign Rodgers this offseason. Steelers owner Art Rooney had this to say, quote, "We keep hearing that he's headed in our direction, and it seems to be all signs are positive so far." Look, Rodgers also had the private workout, whatever, with DK Metcalf, probably testing how they do on back shoulder fade since Rodgers loves that throw. But we're also at the point where, like, okay, it is decision time here, A-Rod. The draft is approaching. Off-season workouts are also just a couple of weeks away. Both of those begin in April. Would Rodgers go to off-season workouts? It's Rodgers. Probably not. But regardless, like, you need to have a plan in place. You can't get to the draft and not know what your quarterback... The Steelers can say all they want that, we're confident in Mason Rudolph being the starter. No, you're not. You let him leave once already. And you paid him backup money. You don't believe he's a starting caliber quarterback. That's just posturing, which is fine, by the way. That is also what the Steelers ownership said in terms of the decision timeline needing to be coming soon. Said, we can wait a little bit, but you can't wait forever. What the Steelers' internal cutoff date is, I don't know. Maybe they don't have one necessarily either, but they don't want to keep sitting around here into deep April, into the draft going, like, you don't want to go into the draft with Skylar Thompson and Mason Rudolph as your under contract quarterbacks and picking 20 in the early 20s with no second round pick. That's not a plan, or at least not a good plan. So at some point soon, in theory, this saga is over, which I know is maybe not fun for everybody. What do you think in the end is the percent chance the Steelers end up signing Aaron Rodgers? It is the pinned comment on today's show, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's move to Kirk Cousins. The Kirk Cousins trade scenario, idea, rumors, whatever you want to call it, is still very much alive. And I think in particular the Browns, as we'll get into, stand out as a key point. At NFL owners' meetings, the coaches have their little breakfast sit-down with media. Here's what Raheem Morris had to say when asked about Kirk Cousins and a trade. He says there's definitely a human side when you want to see him go out and be the best version of himself. It's not a thing where we're holding you back if the opportunity presents itself. If it's something that's good for both of us, it's good for the Falcons and Kirk Cousins, we certainly would like to see that happen. That's fair. The team owes it to themselves first, right? Now, Diana Rossini has specifically mentioned the Browns as a fit. And I think she's right to do so. Yeah, I made the comments about the Steelers not having a real plan at quarterback. The Browns don't have a plan at quarterback either. They got injured Deshaun Watson, who the ownership has said, yeah, we messed up on. The first real public admission of such, by the way. And Kenny Pickett, who's not the guy. He's not the answer, I promise you. He's not. No. We don't have to pretend about that. And the Browns probably, I don't think, are pretending really either there. So there's no real quarterback in place. And Kirk Cousins, we know for a fact, fits the Kevin Stefanski offense since he ran it in Minnesota. With some success, mind you. There's some more on this to come. But do you think the Browns will end up trading for Kirk Cousins? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know in the comment section of today's video. Now, first up, I want to discuss the contract because this is the big issue. We'll spend some time on it because it's kind of complicated. Right now, the Falcons are paying Kirk Cousins $40 million on the salary cap. It's a huge figure, right? The 2025 cash that is owed, because there's signing bonus stuff that counts on the cap hit, is 27.5, which is what the Browns would pay Kirk Cousins in the event that they traded for him. Now, the 2026 cash is $45 million, $10 million of which is already guaranteed. So if the Browns wanted to, it could be a one-year rental at $37.5 million, which seems really highly unlikely. The Falcons would save 2.5 right now with the trade of the full contract, 27.5 if they waited until after June 1st. Of note, you cannot designate a trade as a post-June 1st trade the same way you can a release or a cut. So the real question then becomes, Browns are not trading for Kirk Cousins' contract as is. It makes no sense. How much money are the Falcons willing to eat? Minimum, probably the $10 million guaranteed in 2020, but also more than that. And at that point, you're kind of not getting into salary cap savings unless you wanted to wait until June, but that again impacts your offseason workout timing. So it's complicated for a player that wasn't that great coming off the injury in 2024. He had issues. He got benched for Michael Penix. The Falcons were right to do that. So that's what makes things tricky for Kirk Cousins. He wants to start. The Browns are an obvious fit. Kirk's not going to take less money. That defeats the purpose of all of this. How much are the Falcons willing to eat? And what draft pick are the Browns willing to give for the Falcons to eat some of that money? Because to an extent, it's getting money off the books for Atlanta and cash off the books, which matters. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. We got basketball still ongoing for another weekend and a day, basically. We've got tons of extra coverage for you on that, and Prize Picks has you covered, too. You can do not just basketball or football. Baseball also available. Long list of options, strikeouts, RBIs, first inning runs. Prize Picks has you covered. So go download the app today at prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. A link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. It's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. Let's move to contract talk. Micah Parsons next, first Brock Purdy. The Niners continue to indicate that they feel confident they will get a deal done with Brock Purdy. What that deal looks like, that's the $100 million question. Here's what John Lynch, Niners GM, said on Purdy. Brock wants to be with us. We want Brock to be with us. When that's the case, these things typically get done. And does it happen this offseason? I don't know. Hopefully it happens real soon this offseason. I think we're going to get the deal done. That's what I believe, so we'll just leave it at that. Purdy will likely become one of the highest paid QBs in the NFL. Right now, the number one from a per-year perspective is Dak Prescott. In a variety of ways, the top 2 deals you can kind of tear up. The Dak Prescott deal, he was weeks away, months away from free agency. He had unprecedented leverage that Brock Purdy does not have with the 49ers. It's probably not a fair comparison deal. Josh Allen got $55 million per year and $250 million per year, but he was on a massive contract and was like 4 years away and had 4 years left on his contract. It's also kind of unprecedented, just on the opposite side. So from the guaranteed money perspective and from the average per year perspective at 60 and 250 reverse respectively, you can almost kind of ignore those. And that kind of brings us to one deal in particular that I would think Purdy's camp would try to argue in favor of. Before we get to that, what is the most you'd pay Brock Purdy per year? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Now, Trevor Lawrence has recently been paid. He got a 5-year, $275, that's $55 million per year deal with $20 million guaranteed. Ignoring where they were drafted, there's really nothing from a results perspective. The situations are admittedly very different, but there's nothing from a results perspective that you can say Trevor Lawrence has done better than Brock Purdy. There's not more team success. There's not more individual success. It's the Jags versus the 49ers, absolutely. But if I were Purdy's agent, I'd be going, why would we take less than Trevor Lawrence? The man's done nothing in his NFL career. Now, if you want to adjust for the 9%-ish, I'm rounding, salary cap inflation, you suddenly get to 5 years, $300 million, that's $60 million per year, with $218 guaranteed. I think that is the absolute max Purdy would be able to essentially request from the 49ers, and he probably doesn't get that. But I think somewhere in that $50+ million per year range, that's just what the going rate is for contracts at quarterback these days. That's the salary cap keeps jumping up by like 8% every year. That adds up quickly. Now, we will have more NFL news and rumors and draft coverage here for you on the channel. So if you haven't already, hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Now, if you didn't already know, I also run our Cowboys Report channel here at Chat Sports. And we have to mention the Micah Parsons situation, since that's going to be like the number one ESPN story tomorrow morning. You can book it. Clarence Hill reports the Cowboys have offered a record contract to Micah Parsons, that Micah and Jerry are in mostly agreement, and then Jerry comes out today and says, I don't know who Micah's agent is, and it gets all messy, and they haven't agreed to a deal. Here's what you need to know. Let me sum this up briefly. The Jones boys, Jerry and Steven, and Micah have had contract talks, and they've had offers. They've discussed what the general parameters are, but not with the agent. That's David Mulgeta, who always wins negotiations. And until the Jones boys and Mulgeta actually talk contract, then there's not going to be a deal, as Micah himself said on social media today. To recap the timeline here, first off, this is all now public. It all happened weeks ago. Mike and Jerry met in particular on March 18th at the Star. That was reported by WFAA. Contract offers have happened, but kind of like the non-committable scholarship, it's not really a scholarship offer because you haven't talked with the agent. Everyone knows what the general parameters are of the deal here, but the most important other person here beyond Mike and Jerry is the agent, and neither side has called each other. So they haven't had the negotiations on that front there. This kind of becomes the if a tree falls in the forest thing. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is around to hear it, does it make a sound? If a contract offer is made, but the agent isn't involved, well, then one was actually made or no? Or is that just talking? Are they talking, dating, getting married, engaged? Like, what's the relationship? Which is nonsense, because this deal is actually not that hard. It'll be 5 years. Mike is down with 5 years. The Cowboys love 5 years. It'll be 5 years. It'll be record-setting in terms of the average per year. It'll be at least 40.5. Maybe it jumps to 42.5 because they're adding the additional year and they can backload the contract. The guaranteed money, it's going to be a record. It's 125. It wants to stay on the same rate as Myles Garrett with a 5-year deal. It's 165. It's a $200 million deal. It's not that hard of a contract. It's just how things always somehow seem to go when it comes to negotiations. And for whatever reason, the Cowboys have now taken an antagonistic approach, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. We will talk mailbag here on today's show. Get your questions in via hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. We also have some NFL news for you guys just now coming across the wire. Calais Campbell, a 1-year, $5.5 million deal with the Arizona Cardinals. Not the Ravens and Dolphins as had been mentioned, I think it was today or yesterday that those two had offers out there. Up to $7.5 million. The 38-year-old Iron Man will continue to hang around and I think have success in the NFL. Gives the Cardinals, I think, a logical fit in that defense. All right. Anyway, mailbag coming up here. Let me sip some water before my throat dries out again. Hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Simple, easy, not hard to do. So if you have not just NFL questions, but if you have thoughts, concerns, ideas, suggestions, Kid Boo had one about the Browns. Got to use the hashtag NFL or else producer Chris will be unable to find your questions. And then they just end up getting buried and it makes his life a lot easier. And I already make his life hard enough as it is. So we should make it a little bit easier on producer Chris when we were able to. So get your questions in via hashtag NFL or skip the line altogether via Super Chat. Got some in there from DC Viper, Wolfpack, and others. I think we should have just enough there. So get more in, though. Chris will pick the best ones if there are multiple. So again, use hashtag NFL, skip the line altogether via Super Chat. So as soon as Chris gives me the all clear, we'll break those down. Oh, yeah, we do that one at the top. Good call there. All right, we're all good? Wait, let's do mailbag here on NFL Daily. If you are excited for the rapidly approaching 2025 NFL Draft, make sure you like the video. We got some great stuff planned for you here, as always, with our live coverage at Chat Sports. Have some fun. Hit that like button if you are excited. From Tony, which free agency player could the Chiefs go out and still get / who's the best available player for KC? It's a good question. I think the majority of their needs don't necessarily align that great with some of the top players. They did kind of address offensive line, with the Jalen Moore signing. I wouldn't be opposed to more just big guys on the middle, adding another defensive tackle. Obviously, you brought back Mike Pennell, you signed Jerry Tillery, but that probably just going to be a draft status. If you wanted, Asante Samuel's good, that wouldn't be bad. Maybe he's got upside. Plus, you pair him with Christian Fulton again. It's kind of funny. Receiver? In case you're worried about Rashee Rice suspension or Hollywood Brown injuries or Xavier Worthy not developing the way you want him to, which I think he will. Amari Cooper would be a good fit. He just gets open. Those are, I think, some of the better free agents as well, too. Adam Dent, what do you think the Panthers' main target should be in the draft / could you do needs and players? Sure. I think the head coach said defense is going to be the first priority at the owners' meetings. Hopefully didn't get got on April Fool's Day. Defensively, they're a bunch of linchpin pieces, right? You have Derek Brown. You sign Bobby Brown. You sign Tashawn Wharton. You're probably okay on that interior of the defensive line. It's the edges, right? Excuse me. Jadeveon Clowney is an older player. DJ Wanda and Patrick Jones. Linebacker, it's Trevin Wallace and Josie Jewell. I think Jalen Walker is a pretty fun fit for Carolina. If I'm the Panthers, I think, who are my true top-end game changers? Not starters, but game changers on defense. Derek Brown. Hopefully Trayvon Merrick. J.C. Horn. I don't have anyone at that linebacker / edge spot I think are true changers. Guys can play, yes. I think you could build your defense around Jalen Walker. I think that could be a really good fit. I think edge in general makes sense, whether it's Mike Green, Micah Williams, and then receiver. I think they are very excited about Xavier Legette, but you could consider Teteroa McMillan. But I am going to kind of borderline continuously mock edge to Carolina at 8. Santiago, is the Brandon Ayuk trade rumor over? I think it's dead. That unofficial deadline with the roster bonuses or the option bonuses passed, it's been paid out. I don't think the Niners are going to give him away for nothing. I know they've spent less money, but I don't think they're totally rebuilding. So bailing on Ayuk, what I think would have required a pretty big offer. That offer did not come. I think a team would have given up a 5th-round pick for Brandon Ayuk and paid him the money he's owed. That's not a bad contract at all. I just don't think there were any of the level of offers that were worthwhile. So we can expand it to the deadline, I guess. Between now and the NFL trade deadline, will the Niners move on from Brandon Ayuk? Why for yes and for no? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Songs of C2. What if the Raiders trade back into the end of the first round and pick T-Mac after the picking Genty at 6? I think you'd have to see McMillan fall a pretty good distance there. Now, I think there is a chance if he doesn't go 12 to Dallas, if he gets past that top 12, there could be a slide into the early 20s because there's not that many teams that I think are desperate for a wide receiver right now. So maybe there is a slide. I think the Raiders with no third-round pick, though, trading it for as part of or at least their third-round pick with the Geno Smith trade, he got extra ammunition, Devontae Adams, I know, but I would have doubts they'd be willing to move up for him. Now, if he fell and they have a first-round grade, possible, but I don't think he's going to fall into the range where it makes sense for Vegas. But it is a fun idea. Make no mistake about it. DC times Viper, or X-Viper. The Steelers look to Atlanta about Kirk Cousins. If the Rodgers drama drags on too long, how long are they really willing to wait? I mean, that's a fallback option. I don't know if they want to pay Kirk Cousins $27.5 million, but they have it earmarked for Rodgers to an extent, so it's doable. You can always just restructure it and save money short term. I think that's a viable fallback option. I just think that they want Rodgers real bad. I think Rodgers is better right now than Kirk Cousins, even though he's aging. Doesn't have much left in the tank. I think they'll wait till at least the draft. I think Cousins is going to wait till after the draft anyway, so they don't have to make a decision on the Cousins side for now, because Cousins doesn't want to get traded somewhere and then have someone spend a first-round pick on him again. Wolfpack. Carolina should sign Isaiah Simmons. Man, that was a big miss for me. I thought he was going to be really good. Someone will give him a chance. He's just, I think that those early years in Arizona, I think that they failed him. I think they didn't have a plan to utilize him, and it ended up not working out for them. But there was a point I thought he was going to be a Panther, and I got the Derek Brown mock draft pick wrong. I had Simmons going there. So it'd be funny if they ended up getting both in the end. The NFL draft hats are available for all 32 NFL teams, plus some of them have the pins, by the way, the America's Team pin or other pins for specific teams. Get your hat today at chatsports.com/2025draft. All 32 teams are available, kind of the cream top and the black versions as well. Also, a not as dark black is available. All the teams, different styles, fits, etc. Also, hoodies are available. Chatsports.com/2025NFL draft. Link will be in the comments section and the description of today's show. Bryce Blackwell. How many trades will happen? I think he means at the draft. I treat this as like round one trades. I think a lot. I think there's going to be, especially in the back end of round one, I think you might see a lot of movement. I think teams like Pittsburgh, who's light on draft capital, could be a trade down candidate. The Vikings are an obvious trade down candidate. Houston could be a trade up candidate if someone falls. The Rams would love to trade down, get some more draft capital. The Commanders light on draft capital. The Chiefs and Eagles never afraid to wheel and deal. I could very well see, no real trade movement in the first 7, 8 picks, something like that. And in the last 8 picks, you get a flurry of deals where there's a weird draft overall that's going to lead to some weird picks in general, and maybe some teams having one of their last top 15 guys on the board at pick 27 and saying, let's go get our guy. So how many trades do you think end up happening in round one? Let me know in the comments section of today's video. Colin Dingman. Will the Steelers pay TJ Watt? Yes. That's going to get done. The Lions will pay Aiden Hutchinson. The Cowboys will end up paying Micah Parsons. One of them will carry a lot more drama than the other two. We all know which one that is. But, yeah, they'll get that deal done. Matthew Gillum. I don't think the Giants signing Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston this offseason stops them from drafting Shedeur Sanders at 3. I don't think it stops them if they love Shedeur. I don't know if they love Shedeur. So, that's because this means that if they don't get him, they're not screwed. But I don't know what their real plans are. One hand, I think that they could get Travis Hunter, and that'd be really intriguing for them. But they also don't have a long-term quarterback. And, do Wilson and Winston actually save the jobs of Brian Dable and Joe Shane? Is this a Kirk Cousins-esque type of move? Is this, we have 3 QBs we can play. Maybe one of them will show enough promise we can keep our jobs for one more year? Because that team is not good enough to win anything with Wilson or Winston. Could they go maybe move up for Shedeur if he slides, or a different QB? There's a lot of paths for the Giants that I don't have a great feel for how it all plays out in the end. So do you enjoy our NFL mailbags? If you do, sweet. Happy to have you. Hit that sub button right now. YouTube.com/chatsportstv. DC Times Viper. Could the Browns do a draft similar to how the Texans drafted in 2023? Take Travis Hunter at 2 and then trade back up into the first for Shedeur Sanders. That is possible. I would go with a more likely outcome of they probably take Abdul Carter as opposed to Travis Hunter, but potato to an extent there. The tricky part there is when the Texans did that, they went 2 and 3. I don't think you can get to 3 because that year the Texans also had a top 12 pick. They had picked 12, so it was more feasible. Now, if Shedeur slides to 23, you can jump up then. That's very doable. And that might be in the cards for Cleveland. Wolfpack. Should the Cowboys sign Caleb Farley or Stephon Gilmore? Gilmore would be more appealing. The Cowboys are at the point, and some teams are too, they don't need a flyer. They have flyers on guys like Elam out already. They need more of an instant impact guy. I think Stephon Gilmore would very much fit that mold more than other options there. Our old friend Jack has made an appearance. Will Mark Andrews end up being traded? John Harbaugh kind of said no. I don't know if that's just coach speak or realistic, but I think if he does get dealt, day 3 of the draft is where it starts to make some sense. Of maybe a team doesn't get the tight end they want, and they end up making a trade instead. So speaking of trades, name a player who you think gets dealt between now and we'll see the end of the NFL draft. Let me know in the comment section of today's show a player you think ends up getting traded. Adam Dent, who are your surprise candidates to jump into the first round and one to drop out of the first round? I don't know if like a James Pierce or a Luther Burden counts in that category because we've seen them get mentioned as guys that might not go in round 1. I think those guys kind of stand out to me. I think someone like Josh Simmons, who's been pretty consistently mocked in round 1, if the medical comes back bad, or if there have been some questions on character concerns on that front that have been mentioned by guys like, I think it was Todd McShay or maybe it was Bob McGinn and his scouts there. Mecca Buka could slide into round 1. That wouldn't be overly shocking. Round 1 surprise candidates. Insert your third back, whether that's Judkins or Henderson or Caleb Johnson. I think Trey Amos doesn't get mocked much in round 1. I think that's an option at corner. If the medicals check out for Siobhan Ravel, Benjamin Morrison, those guys could go in round 1. I've seen some love for Darius Alexander. The UCLA edge, I'm going to botch his name. I don't want to be a dick. I'll have to get the pronunciation here. Olu Afedi. That's wrong, but I'll get the proper pronunciation here. That is a guy that I think could have some actual surprise round 1 buzz. Maybe haven't seen much love for Josh Connerly, the Oregon tackle, as of late. I think that maybe could be a fit. Something weird like Carson Schwessinger jumps into the back end of round 1. Looking at my notes here. That's my guy. He's not going to go in round 1. I'll say that take for another day. I think those are the main ones to kind of keep an eye out for. Olu Oladejo, who also goes by Femi. That's the UCLA edge. He was first year playing edge. I think that's a good dark horse name. MA football guy. Do you think the Raiders trade up with the Patriots if Shedeur falls to 4? I don't think so. Because I don't know who's going to... I think the Patriots, if Shedeur falls to 4, the Patriots probably are just okay, we're going to take Will Campbell, and they don't want to risk the Jags taking Will Campbell. So Patriots probably stay pat. Jags and Patriots are not taking a QB. So if the Raiders want Shedeur and he falls past 3, I think they can just stay and pick, unless a team actually wants to move up to snipe them, which I don't think ends up happening. All right, do you guys enjoy April Fools? Y for yes, N for no. You can let me know in the comment section of today's show. I don't like it anymore. I'm old. I don't care anymore. I did not get got today. Did you got it all today, Chris? Even for just a hot second?
For a second, when I was like getting ready for work this morning, I was on Twitter and I saw some college basketball transfer portal stuff.
I got to be careful.
And I saw what's his name? Sam Walters transferred from Alabama to Michigan. Somebody had taken the On3 like graphic and said he was coming back to Alabama, and I was like, yes. Oh wait.
Yeah, those are good ones. Sometimes it's just lazy these days, though. Like I saw one that was like, Lincoln Riley got fired. I'm like, no one's falling for this. Like, come on. You guys are smarter than that. Get to MA football guy here in a second as well. Rashard says he got that Purdy got traded. There have been some good ones over the years. The fun one is, remember when Roy Williams retired on April Fool's Day? And everyone's like, wait, is this for real? And then it was like, oh, this is for real. He picked the worst day possible to do it.
Seemed like Tiger got a lot of people this morning.
Look, man, that's just not cool by Tiger. Like I'm a big golf fan. Like I did not appreciate that at all. Like don't give hope like that, buddy. You ain't playing again for a year. Don't do that to us. Anyway, MA football guy, DB here. I love Connerly. I've got him in the second. Let me pull up my notes here. That's Oregon offensive tackle Josh Connerly. I have him in the second. Left tackle. 2-year starter, showed growth, good mover, light on his feet, good athlete. I thought he fared pretty well against Abdul Carter. He is shorter height-wise than most tackles, but he has the length that you want. I don't think he's as powerful as everyone's going to love. But for you, MA football guy, like if QBs go with the first 2 picks, 2 of the first 3 picks, I should say, and Hunter/Abdul Carter is there, I think Josh Connerly to New England in round 2. I think that's the play, because then you have your left tackle to help protect Drake May long term. So Matt Danger on board with that one too. That's just I just think that's a pretty logical fit for a guy that I think will be there if you don't go Will Campbell in round 1. The NFL Draft is rapidly approaching. Time for an all-new 2025 NFL mock draft from yours truly. I am Tom Downey. No trades in this one, although there will be trades come draft day. Let's get into it. Number 1, Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. The vibe I get is if a team wants to blow away Tennessee, the Giants at 3, with a 3 first-round pick trade offer, they'll trade down. They'll say, yep, we'll pass on Cam Ward, but they don't want to do that. They have to be blown away, and the Giants don't want to do it, and the likely outcome is a stick and pick with Cam Ward going number 1 overall. Now, if you want more NFL draft coverage and live NFL draft coverage of the actual NFL draft this year, you've come to the right spot. Look, this video is going up on our NFL draft channel first, by the way, but the live NFL draft coverage will be here on Chat Sports. All the picks, they come in faster than the actual networks. We will do actual analysis of the picks. We won't do the nonsense of not discussing a player to go do a stupid interview. I hate when they do that. Not going to be an issue here. Hit that sub button, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's go with what if the Browns don't go quarterback at number 2? And if I had to guess right now, this can change the next 3 weeks. I'll go Abdul Carter, who I think the Browns would probably view as the best player in this year's class, and they will be patient in a shaky quarterback class. And I'll put Travis Hunter to the Giants. I consulted both our Browns host and Giants hosts on these 2 picks here. We'll talk about Shedeur Sanders in a little bit, but Giants have Russell Wilson; they can get by. Hunter and former LSU receiver Malik Neighbors. It's a really fun duo. Hunter is my number one player. It's BPA at 2 and 3. So for the Patriots, I think it gets kind of easy. If Carter and Hunter aren't there, fill your biggest need with the best offensive lineman in the class. I think Mike Vrabel is willing to overlook the arm length issues, and he will just happily take Will Campbell. I think his mindset matches up pretty well with Mike Vrabel, and they fill a huge need. I like the Mason Graham fit with the Jags, and there's no more Trent Baalke to have a vendetta against Michigan players because he hates Jim Harbaugh. Real thing, by the way. They need an interior presence. It's probably BPA for them. It all works out. Ashton Genty might not go 6. I think this is where his range begins, though. You get to pair him up with Geno Smith. Shedur's maybe not an impossibility at 6, by the way. But I think having the new Marshawn Lynch, who's maybe even more explosive, at 6 would be a good fit for Vegas and Pete Carroll. I love the Armand Membu fit. I was on Tyler Warren for a while. Then they lost Morgan Moses. You plug him in at right tackle. You build to the trenches. Aaron Glenn gets a football player first. I think that's the logical fit for New York at 7, who could maybe go 4. Jalen Walker. I have a tough time going with where he goes. Like, the number 2 edge wouldn't be a surprise if he went 8 overall. But one person's number 2 edge is going to be somebody else's like edge 4 or edge 5. So the range goes from like 8 to 28. It's a huge range of outcomes. But I think Walker and his kind of hybrid play style is what Carolina can build around. I'll put Shadur Sanders here at 9. I will be upfront and honest here. I don't know where he's going to go. There is a chance that when we get to draft night, we have to discuss every the pick, like, is this the Shadur spot? Where does he go? Or he goes to the board the first couple picks, and it's okay, it's a done deal, and Shadur's, off the board, and he's the franchise QB for somebody. The Saints are still kind of actually rebuilding, but they're also not because they keep spending money on old players. It's kind of weird. But I think getting a potential franchise QB at 9, I think does fit Kellen Moore pretty decently, is an option. And if it's not 9 for Shadur Sanders, by the way, it might be a long slide for him. We might very well get into 21 with Pittsburgh or a trade up for him. So come draft night, who takes Shadur Sanders? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Pin comment. Go vote right now. Talked with Harrison Graham for the Bears pick, Chase Senior for the Niners pick too, by the way. Tyler Warren to the Bears. The Lions and Ben Johnson love 2 tight end personnel. Ben Johnson has spoken highly of Tyler Warren. He's a playmaker. The tackles are off the board. This is the next best fit for Chicago. Tackles also off the board. Mason Graham off the board for the 49ers. I'll give them Mike Green. That defensive line needs help. They are not good right now up front. Mike Green is a bit undersized weight-wise, but he has good arm length and wildly productive. But there are the off-field stuff that he has to address. Teteroa McMillan out of Arizona, pick 12 to the Dallas Cowboys. I just think this is a no-brainer. Like, maybe it's Matthew Golden instead, but if all the receivers are off the board or on the board, I think the Cowboys would go receiver with their best available wideout. And I think that's still T-Mac, but I think Matthew Golden is worth mentioning here too. Receivers are gone. It might be Will Johnson for Dallas, by the way. I got him here at 13 to the Dolphins. The Cam Smith pick is shaky at best right now. My boy Nick Roloff mocked this one in his latest mock draft. I think it makes sense, actually. I think he's a good scheme fit, and I think they need more talent on the outside. We'll see if he runs a 40 or not, though. Number 14, Colston Loveland, tight end from Michigan. Tyler Warren, I don't think he gets past 14 to Indy, and Loveland is actually a really good fit for what Indianapolis wants to do up front, too. The Falcons are still searching for edge help. I'm going to give them Michael Williams, who I am not as high on, but Mike Green's also off the board, so it's not actually a bad pick necessarily. Bit more production than Shamar Stewart. Not quite the same elite athletic ability. I don't know what to do with Arizona. Now, they did sign Calais Campbell right before we filmed the mock draft, but I don't think that changes anything long-term for them. I think they want to get better on the inside. I think Kenneth Grant is a freak athlete with physical upside and traits and everything you want in a run stopper who can also push the pocket. And I think he does go some point in mid to late round 1 range. Today's show is made possible by Prize Picks. It is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Springtime is here. Baseball season is underway. You can add your favorite players from the diamond to your PrizePicks lineups, or season-long football is also available. I like the less than's on these because the Lions' offense probably won't be as good. Travis Kelce's not going to be as involved with Rashee Rice's return. Jaden Daniels probably won't run as much. I like the less than's on all of those. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play that first $5 lineup. I'll go different pick here. Number 17, Nicky Manwari out of the safety from South Carolina out of Cincinnati. Some of the edges are gone. I think they probably won't go guard in round 1, but I think safety is a sneaky pick for Cincinnati, and Manwari is a freak athlete too. Now, I know Seattle, picking at 18 here, doesn't like taking guards early, but they have to. It is such a bad interior of the offensive line. They need to take someone like Tyler Booker, plug him in, have success. I do kind of question the scheme fit, but I want to emphasize how big of a need this is for Seattle. Tampa at 19, I love the fit of Jihad Campbell. I think he is a perfect linebacker for Todd Bowles' defense. He could be in play at 17. He can be in play a little bit earlier. I think he is a guaranteed round 1 pick. Broncos, pick 20, Amarian Hampton. There is their feature back for Sean Payton, who can do pass-catching stuff, who's got kind of a great athletic and production profile. He's not Ashton Genty. That's why he's not going top 10, but I think he goes in the first round. Steelers at number 21. I just refuse to mock a quarterback if it's not Shadur at 21. So I'll go Derek Harmon. Cam Hayward cannot play forever. They're a little bit thin in terms of top-end talent at the defensive tackle spot. I think Derek Harmon is the 3rd best DT behind the 2 Michigan players. I am a huge fan of his game. I think he'd thrive in Pittsburgh. Chargers at pick number 22. Let's find a spot for another receiver. They all just kind of fell in this year's draft. But I've got Matthew Golden out of Texas here at pick 22 to the LA Chargers, giving them some vertical threat speed to pair with Ladd McConkey long term. At 23 for the Packers, Shamar Stewart is the most Packers pick possible. Gifted athlete, doesn't have great production, but he's a freak athlete, fits their size and height and weight and speed profiles. I think the Packers want an edge to pair with Rashawn Gary long term. I think if Stewart gets to 23, I love that team player fit. I didn't do trades in this mock draft. If I did, I would have had Minnesota trade down. They need picks. If they stay at 24, how about someone like Gray Zabel, who can plug in at guard for them, which I think is kind of their main outstanding need right now on the offensive line. Texans at 25, thought about Donovan Jackson. Kelvin Banks could play guard for a year if you needed him to, and also take over long-term at left tackle, kind of replace Cam Robinson once his 1-year deal is done. I have considered him playing a guard, but I think at 25, it's a pretty good fit. I am a big fan of Jahdae Barron, who've got off the board here at 26 to the LA Rams. He won't be for everyone. He's got short arms. I think there are some man coverage concerns, but zone corner for the Rams defense is a perfect fit. They are also, by the way, a trade down candidate this year. They're also maybe a QB in round 1. At least they've been mocked a lot there. How many QBs do you think go in the first round? 1, 2, 3? Is it somehow 4? Let me know in the comments of today's show. The Ravens at 27. Hey, you take Malachi Starks. You can now go back to using Kyle Hamilton as a do-it-all chess piece at safety. And it's the Ravens SEC value pick. They love that stuff. Detroit Lions, pick 28. How about Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State? Jameis Williams will get the 5th-year option. Might not be there forever. Emeka Egbuka fulfills the no block, no rock mindset that I think Dan Campbell will love and appreciate. He is a Dan Campbell type of player in round 1. Pick 29, the Commanders, Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College. I think he is a gifted, bendy athlete, has pass rush ability. The Commanders still could use another piece there at edge, especially opposite Dorrance Armstrong and the rest of the crew. The Bills at 30. Let's try again at corner. Kaiir Elam did not work out. Maybe Maxwell Harrison will. Favorite combine interview, great testing, ball skills, down year for Kentucky. The entire defense had a down year, though. The Chiefs at 31. How about Josh Simmons? I know they signed Jalen Moore, but you have to find a way to protect your franchise QB. It's a short deal for Jalen Moore. You can make sure Simmons has time to recover from the patella tendon injury and hopefully have your long-term left tackle. The Eagles at number 32 here. I think they're also maybe a trade candidate here is how he loves to wheel and deal. I think the Commanders also, by the way, an obvious trade candidate. I think they need another guy on the interior. Like, you lose Milton Williams, you haven't really replaced him. On the outside, you have Josh Uche and stuff, but Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, I think Moro Jomo could be a nice breakout player, but adding Walter Nolan is the possible how we did it again scenario. So who did I leave out of round one? Let me know in the comments section of today's show. Then I'll mention some names here in just a second. If a third QB goes in round one, sounds like it'll be Jackson Dart. I am actually not a huge fan of his game as a round one player, but it's the NFL. QBs go early. Luther Burden, I am a fan of his game. NFL seems to not be as high. They can be wrong like they were about Brian Branch. Donovan Jackson could sneak into round one. James Pierce has round one talent, who's got character stuff off the field that is a concern for teams. Siobhan Ravel, if the medical clears, could easily go in round one. Back to the pin poll for today's show. Who is the better QB? AR for Aaron Rodgers, KC for Kirk Cousins. By the way, 65% of the vote, which I think is correct, now in favor of Aaron Rodgers. We will sign off from today's live show. More NFL videos coming at you guys all week long. Do not miss out. Hit that sub button. YouTube.com/chatsportstv for more free NFL YouTube videos. And, of course, our live NFL draft coverage all 3 days.